Hello, Forecaster here again, and we are back for episode 104. And we have a chest cart full of tracks and a track layer cart. And I'm sure you can't possibly guess what we're going to do with that. I have finished the bridge, and dang it. That did not go as planned. No, backwards. That'll do. Now, if we apply a pattern here, and now if we send you, nope, you are supposed to be turned around, going forward at that speed. So now, we can lay the track. Of course, the pillars aren't done yet, but that's just a visual thing, of course, so I'm going to hold off on that for when I have time for it. The important thing is that the bridge becomes usable. So it now stretches, both halves now stretch to the let's call it the middle point, the landmass that is in the way, on the way to the village, and where we are going to establish an outpost. But before that, of course, comes placing signals on these tracks, and the plan is to have a post in the middle of the bridge going up, and then have a block signal on each side, and then have those spaced out. Not sure about the distance. Maybe every two or third, maybe fourth support might be good. And of course, I need to follow this along to keep it loaded, because there's no chunk loader on it, no world anchor. I'm not sure about the distance yet. The loading radius of world anchors, or anchor carts, I should say, because it doesn't affect the blocks, have been increased. So don't need to have them as tightly spaced as before, for safety. It's speeding along, sort of. Not sure why the speed varies. That's kind of weird. Don't think it's supposed to do that. Maybe it's the lag between the client and the server. Probably. But yeah, so we're going to be able to establish an outpost, and soon have automated trains going between the outpost and the base to carry materials back for processing. I currently have Serene doing a mining run, and she's still scanning the area for fluids because apparently there is water or lava somewhere inside of it, which is alright. It's been taking a while. Hopefully the tracks don't run out before we are... Oh, and then they run out, of course. Right, so we can shut this down, and we're going to have to go make more tracks. I suppose we can bring this back with us. Let's get this back on the tracks. I can't tell which direction it's in. That's the wrong one. Can maybe borrow one from here. That fell in the ocean. That's great. Maybe if I push... There we go. Hopefully this will allow it to pull everything back onto the tracks without slipping off, so I have to run and catch it. There we go. Now, if we remove this, because it's slowing the train down, and we can remove this as well because it's empty. Then we get in there. Need to get back because I'm starving. So now we can head back to the base. Take the locomotive with us so we can get a quick way back. Turn on the night vision. The bottom of the sea is a lush place when you have this mod pack that I have made, and it looks even lusher with better foliage, which is nice. Here we are. And here we'll get a refill. We'll shut the locomotive down. And I need to get something to eat right now, because evidently I'm not feeling very well. And we have about 4 frames per second, which is great. That's a little better. Now let's see what we have here. Let's have some toast. Dang it. There we go. Let's see if we can't make something. Let's have some garden soup and some rice soup. These are not the best, but they will do for now. It seems I need to get some more ingredients. Maybe another freezer. Right, so we need more tracks. So we are going to need to make a bunch of steel. And we can make a whole bunch of it because, well, we're going to need even more tracks later, so it doesn't matter if I make too much. What the? food. Oh. Forgot to change this back before, which is annoying. I thought I left this fish food up here. Apparently I was mistaken. Let's take this gold, copper, aluminum, tin, silver. Can go in there, I guess. Oh. Right. Gold goes in there. Oh well. Right. Now we can make some iron ingots. So, not sure exactly what will be at the outpost yet. Really thought about it. Doesn't really need to be anything except a loading, an item loader, maybe a water supply station, and some storage, just to load the trains up, keep them supplied with water, and then they're just going to come back here and unload. Let's make another batch of 24. That's 8 and 12. And then we have 4. But yeah, that's pretty much all. Going to have to change the input point for Zippy, of course. That should do it, I think. So he takes items there instead of... might also want some power, actually. Maybe I'll have a generator set up and have a train carry liquid fuel there for power. What was I doing? Oh, yeah. I'm going to make steel, of course. So we're going to throw it into our Railcraft blast furnace because it's faster. We have a lot of fuel still, a lot more to be processed at that. Yeah, I have had problems with this, with the refinery. Specifically, this universal sensor keeps doing this. It's supposed to say 500 here, but keeps resetting, and at least when I restart the server, this is outputting redstone because last time this was fully heated. While this is reset, and it's not supposed to output redstone because this has cooled down. So I have to go in here and set it to 500 again, so this turns off, so it is allowed to heat up the refinery again. There's also a problem with when one of these tanks fill up, or one or more, because then there is not enough pressure to empty the tank in one go. So the logistics modules complain that there's not enough pressure. So I have to empty it manually, and then it can start moving smaller amounts again. I might have talked about this before, I think. I had to empty my LPG tanks because they had filled up, and the top refinery block had filled up with LPG. I used the Amadron system to sell most of it. Got a bunch of emeralds. Speaking of that, we're going to see if there is some experience bottles for sale. There are. So you're going to buy. Let's see. I want 64 of them. So I want, or buy for 64 emeralds. I get 2 stacks of experience bottles. Gonna use that for enchanting some stuff. Try to get a silk touch steel pickaxe, and of course I'm going to use the smelter crucible furnace to disenchant anything that is not silk touch, to collect experience for repairing my things, which I haven't had enough to repair much lately, and I'm going to need a whole bunch. I don't remember if I mentioned this, but my turbine rotor started to show some wear. In here. So I'm going to need a whole bunch of experience to fix that. That has a lot of uses still. But I'm going to need to fix it eventually, so I need to try to save experience for that. I might also make a new one if I have the materials at the time. That depends how my iron supplies look. I do need to turn the iron into steel, which is a fairly expensive and mostly slow process, which is the worst part. I also have expanded my creosote oil tank numerous times because it keeps filling up and the production stops. Of course, not sure what to do with this stuff right now. I don't have much use for it. I don't need it as fuel because I have plenty of other sources. Actually, you can place creosote oil as block, right? Pretty sure you can. Yes. Maybe I should build another reservoir for that. The best way. So let's talk about reservoirs. This one is not particularly large. There are a couple of challenges that emerge when you're trying to construct one of these reservoirs. Now, if you want it covered, you need to support the roof, of course, with pillars like I have done in this one. An alternative, if you want a covered reservoir, is to make it relatively small, but very deep. But the problem that emerges then is getting the liquid back up. I'm using this gas lift from Railcraft, of course, which is extracting the oil from the reservoir. Now, this has a maximum depth because as the depth it needs to pump the liquid up from, or fluid, the pressure required increases. And once the required pressure is higher than 5 bars, it's obviously not going to be able to pump any more fluid up. So there is a maximum depth that it can pump up fluid from. Now you can also, of course, maybe have the fluid come out to the side of the tank and then have the gas lift there, because I think, well, I know it pumps from the top and down, just like most pumps do. So it starts in this corner here, in this reservoir, for example, and then removes a layer off the top and then goes down. So it doesn't actually have to be above the fluid. It can be to the side and further down. So creating a reservoir that has a ceiling. Now, of course, you don't actually need that. I need that in here because I kept falling into the oil, and it's kind of lethal. But if I were to make a creosote reservoir, I could put it somewhere where I don't need to go over, and then I wouldn't need to cover it. So that's an idea, of course. I could also make an iron tank, but that is going to cost a lot of iron, and I'd rather not spend too many resources on getting rid of this stuff or having somewhere to put it, when I can just dig a hole in the ground and put it there. So that might be one of the preferable solutions to that. So that might be an upcoming project, just to keep, so that I'm able to keep producing coal, coke, and charcoal. We're not going to have time for that in this episode, though. How much steel has processed right now? 9 ingots. That's going to take a while. And to imagine this is even slower. Speaking of this, by the way, I've removed the upgrade from this, the ejector upgrade. I put a pulling and ejector upgrade in this. Now, I encountered a problem where this was ejecting steel ingots into the compressor. And the reason that happened, of course, was because this can accept steel ingots because it can make them into steel blocks if it gets 9 of them. So as you can see, to solve that, I produced more of the regular cells until there were enough to keep all of the slots filled. So there are 2 stacks of cells, one to fill up the blast furnace, one to fill up the output slot on the compressor, and then 4 more to keep this slot occupied. Because then, when the blast furnace uses a cell, it's going to put it here. Then the compressor is going to pull that cell in to refill it. And then it's going to eject, because there's empty space for cells in the blast furnace. It's going to eject that equal number of cells to fill the void, so to speak. But there's always going to be cells in this slot, which is going to keep it from pulling in refined iron or steel, which has solved that problem nicely. So yeah, not a whole lot going on. Took a while to finish the bridge because it was a lot of manual labor, and in between I had to have Serene mine up more cobblestone along with some ores, of course. But mostly I was looking for the cobblestone for the pillars. Took a while to get that done. It's still not done. I think he's sitting here on the charger, just in standby. Zippy is down in the tunnel because he ended up there trying to pick some stuff up that I then picked up, so he went into standby down there. Which is kind of funny. So he's already down in the tunnel. Oh, right. I made some changes to Zippy's program. This should be it here. So, Zippy now checks the area for item entities. After or at the start of each program. So what will happen is if there are items in the area, he's going to come and pick them up like usual, and then it's going to dump them in the input or output from the miner into the input to the sorting system. Then he's going to start over, and if there are more items in the area, he's going to go and pick them up immediately. And if there are not, he's going to go into standby and then wait 30 seconds and then check again. Before, he would, if there were any items, he would pick them up, dump them in the input to the sorting system, and then he would always go into standby and wait for some time. I don't remember how long. I think it might have been a minute or 30 seconds or something. But so he would ignore any more items that were in the area, which kind of annoyed me when I was waiting for him to come pick something up, just to make sure it got picked up, because it would always wait for that time between each cycle. Right. Forgotten about this. Actually, I need this as well. But now, of course, he won't do that anymore. He'll come immediately if there are more items and pick them up, which is great. I had to cut a hole here because it turned out that the block that was there was blocking the cart from going down. They got stuck, which was slightly annoying. There we go. That's nice. So I might have to put stairs or slabs there instead to fix that, because I still don't want mobs to be able to get in that way. I'll put a glass block there later. Let's close that. Still quite a while until the steel is ready. And we have reached the end of the episode, it seems. So it looks like we're going to have to come back next episode, where I'll probably have assembled more tracks. and we can continue laying them down and hopefully finally complete the railway. So, I will see you then.